about it. Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another live stream. Welcome back to the show that still hasn't got a name, but we are working on it. Big up to everyone that's locked in. Smash up the like, subscribe if you're new around here. Get involved in the chat, as always. After a disastrous week last week with drop points against Brentford, defeat to Bayern Munich, and defeat to Man United on the weekend, it's another big week. Lincoln in the Carabao Cup tomorrow night. We need a performance there. We need a result just for team morale. And then a huge game against Brighton at the weekend, which we do really actually need to win. We've got loads to dive into. Cole Palmer, does he require surgery? Being managed on a day-by-day basis. Moises Caicedo and João Pedro are both managing themselves, in the words of Enzo Maresca. Lavia and Badiashile still not back. It looks like already we are paying the price for our Club World Cup exploits. Just 5 games into the season. It could be a long season. There's lots to dive into, always lots to talk about. But before we get cracking, guys, just a quick reminder, as always, make sure you check out Jerseys FC Soccer Shop. Link is in the description. Use code BLUEBROTHER, 20% off. Make sure, guys, you're looking fresh for the upcoming season, throughout the season. Home kit, third kit, away kit, whatever you want. Names, numbers, patches, great quality, affordable prices. Make sure you check it out. Use code BLUEBROTHER, 20% off. Link is in the description. Nina, how are we doing?
Yeah, mate, I've had better weekends, I'll say that, but you had probably a worse one, so I won't complain too much, being there and all. Yeah, I'm still getting over the fact that you said hopefully we can get a win tomorrow for a boost in morale against Lincoln. I mean,
we need a boost in morale.
How has it come to this though? Like, we were on such a high coming into the season, and now suddenly we need to win against Lincoln for a boost in morale. Like, come on, it's actually insane. And I can only say it through a smile and a laugh because it just sounds crazy, but it is reality. Like you say, we've had a pretty poor week in our standards, and yeah, it's just not been good enough. But I think that Man United game sent all of us over the edge because it was worse than anything we could have imagined. And I think we were all pretty apprehensive about the result before we even played them, because we know that historically there since 2013 we haven't won an away game. So we knew that that was there, but I did not expect for the game to unravel the way it did, and it just sort of got worse and worse and worse. Pathetic fallacy with the weather and all, but that was just a rubbish day from start to finish. And like you were telling me earlier, it sounds like you had a pretty bad day.
I mean, it could have been one of the worst weekends I've ever had. But we're not here to talk about that anymore. That's gone. That's done and dusted. Before we get into it, let's see what you lot are saying in the chat. Yes, big up, bro. Why do we risk Cole Palmer when he's not fit enough? We're going to get to that in a sec. Yes, big up, brother. Someone hacked my account with different pick. Right, okay. Well, I don't know what's going on with Lavia because he's been in full team training for over a week. So he's obviously not injured still.
No,
obviously,
he said that him and Badiashile are in training now, but they're not ready.
They've been in training since last week. They trained all last week, and obviously they're in training today. I think it's one of them where they just I don't know. They're clearly obviously not ready to play. You would have thought this would have been a good opportunity, but that's a problem as well. Yes, big up, brother. Make sure you're smashing the likes, people. Yeah, we are in trouble with the injuries. There's no doubt about it. 2 billion spent, and we are walking to the Allianz Arena in Old Trafford with 2 centre-backs who are free and Robert Sanchez. Yeah, no, I mean, it's fair. It's a fair criticism. It's a fair critique. Let's start with the Cole Palmer situation, because obviously he's had this groin situation since the Club World Cup, really. He's been managing on pain-killing injections. Not ideal. It's going by game basis, day-by-day basis, Maresca saying in the presser today. It's not an ideal situation. He's already missed 2 games, West Ham and Fulham, and then he had to come off after 20 minutes in the United game at the weekend. Maresca as well saying in the press conference that for the first time today, the medical staff had mentioned the possibility of surgery. We cannot go through a whole season, in my opinion, managing Palmer on a day-by-day, game-by-game basis with this groin issue. For me, I'm no medical expert, but by the sounds of it, it almost feels there's a sense of inevitability that at some point, some sort of surgery will have to happen. Now, obviously, it's beneficial with the international breaks that we can, recover some of these players. But when you get to January and stuff and that's gone, then I do kind of worry about the state of the squad. I understand why Palmer played at the weekend. He wanted to play. You have to play your top players. But this is not sustainable. I mean, how concerning is the whole Cole Palmer situation? Because you look at it now, for me, it's a big concern. And the alternative to Palmer, given our current situation, is playing Buonanotte, who didn't even make the bench in the United game.
Yeah, it's a really concerning situation. But like someone said in the chat earlier, why did Cole Palmer even start? Why wasn't he the first to come off if that was the case? And that's how bad it was. Like everything about Maresca's decision making, every single substitution was just either wrong, or it wasn't a timely one, or it was made at the wrong time, and everything was just a mess. Like if Cole Palmer was feeling it during that game, then he should have been the first to come on, and we should have come off, and we still should have had some attackers there alongside Joao Pedro. Like Neto maybe could have stayed on, should have stayed on in my opinion. But yeah, it's a very, very difficult situation now for us, because like you said, you can't manage him that way. He's obviously not going to be 100% match fit if this continues. And I worry that it might come to a case, if they have mentioned surgery, that it might be like with Reece James, where we just said, you know what, we love you, but just go and get that surgery, because we just need you to be completely fit and the best possible version after you've recovered. But it isn't great. And we've seen it in the past with Enzo Fernandez, where he had a similar problem and he was playing through it. He was playing through injections, etc. And it wasn't a good thing. It's not a good thing for the player. It's not a good thing for the team. It's not a good thing all round. So I really, really hope that there is some solution. We all obviously wish it's not surgery, because we know that is going to be him out for a while recovering. And I don't think we can afford to have Cole Palmer out. I'm sorry, I said that we weren't Cole Palmer FC anymore, but Cole Palmer is still so valuable to this team. Like you said, if we're looking at his replacement or his second best, if it's Buonanotte, that's not good enough. If it is Joao Pedro, that's better. But then that means, who are we playing up top as well? Because I currently think Joao Pedro.
Well, it means we're playing Tariq George up top, doesn't it?
Well, that's not good enough. I'm sorry.
No,
That
not.
isn't good enough. And it really just will disrupt the whole dynamic up front. And frankly, I'm too worried about our defense right now and our goalkeeper situation to also be worried about how we're going to be setting up going forward. So it could really prove to be a bigger problem than we envision, because it's not just about him being out. It's going to be about how we set up moving forward.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I don't want to keep talking about, oh, we should have done this, we should have done that in the summer. But this once again highlights how poor it was not to go and get a Xavi Simons or someone of a caliber who can step into Cole Palmer's shoes and the gap not be massive. With the greatest of respects to Buonanotte, he's not that guy. You know, he's here for the season, okay? And the fact that the guy is not even making squads for the Premier League games goes to show sort of where he is kind of in the thinking.
The fact that he was the last minute addition in our Champions League squad as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know what the extent of this groin issue is. I don't know how long the surgery would be, but I think it gets to a point when it comes to a head. Exactly like with the Enzo Fernandez situation. He was playing through it, and then it's like, enough is enough. Like we got to get this sorted. You cannot play week in, week out constantly with that in the back of your mind. Oh, my groin's hurting. Like, what happens if this gets worse? I'm not saying that he plays or thinks like that, but naturally that's going to be a thought when you're playing, you know.
Yeah. And it clearly affects him every game, though, because was it after the Bayern Munich game?
Yeah, he was feeling it at full time after the game. I mean, look, with his performance against Bayern, you wouldn't have really known that, you know, he had a problem. But ultimately, again, this lays bare the extent of actually how poor some of the recruitment was in the summer. And I was reasonably happy with a lot of the stuff that we did in the summer. But I said, it was dog shit not to get Xavi Simons. It was so poor not to get a Levi Colwill replacement. And it was so poor to not upgrade the goalkeeper. And all three things, already 5 games into the season, are proving a massive, massive problem. Do we have these issues if we weren't at the Club World Cup? I don't know. But the fact of the matter is we were at the Club World Cup. We knew that this season would be difficult. We knew it would be a struggle in terms of fitness, in terms of, you know, having players available and whatnot. Is this a case of us potentially overrating our window, overrating the quality of players that we signed, you know, overrating the squad depth that we've actually got? Because there's no Asugu, there's no Lavia. Palmer's got an injury problem. You
Liam
look at
Delap's out.
Liam Delap's out. Okay. And you can say that's unfortunate, right? You've got two midfielders injured. You've got Cole Palmer with an injury problem. And then you've got, obviously,
And can we
Delap out.
mention Wesley Fofana as well? Because he's clearly not match fit either.
Well, I would expect him to be a bit rusty, though, because he's not played a lot of football. I don't think he was. I don't think he was injured.
Yeah, but Charlie, he asked to come off because he was tired.
Yeah, but are you surprised, though? The guy's barely played football.
No, but then that doesn't give me any comfort that he's going to be match fit and he's going to be like reliable to be picked and selected and see out games for more than 3 consecutive matches. Like,
well, I think but it's gonna take time for him to get to that point.
How much time though? Because
well, I don't know.
It's like you can't help but get a little bit impatient when you've already got enough players that are kind of out recovering fine. It's not anyone's fault when they're injured, but with Fofana, it's like you're coming back, you've been assessed that you're ready to go, you're assessed that you can play and see out the whole game, and then you're asking to be replaced, then you're not going to make the next starting lineup, then you're going to be introduced. And I have a whole problem with it because like we are so insecure in our back line, it's still chopping and changing so much, and when you've got a player like Fofana who requires his own attention there and he's not available and he's not 100% match fit, then again that's just another problem you have, another hole in your back line. And then it bothers me when people say he's our best defender. Sorry, I don't agree because he's clearly not right now. And I don't know if he ever will be all this season. Like it's simply not good enough. So it is starting to bother me.
Yeah, no, it's a problem. And it just goes to show where you've got like a couple of injuries, which is going to happen throughout the course of a season, guaranteed. And you're already scraping the barrel in terms of players that can come in. You know, we're looking at a situation now where Joao Pedro virtually has to play every game. And that's not an ideal situation to be in. Your alternative options are Tyreek George, who is about to be sold to Fulham, but is now getting more minutes than Gittins, more minutes than Garnacho. Mark Guiu, Maresca clearly didn't want him back, clearly didn't rate him. He didn't rate him last season. I don't think he rates him this time round either. There's no other number 9 in the squad, but he'd rather play George up there and he'd rather run Joao Pedro into the ground. So you look at the options that we've got in the squad and I don't know, it is a little bit worrying in terms of the level of backup we've got. Yes, okay, Jarell Hato, young, it'll take time for him to settle in and whatnot, but that is a capable player once he's settled in to back up Marc Correa. I haven't got a problem with that. The options out wide, I'm not convinced on Gittins. Garnacho, I think, is more ready, but we haven't really seen very much of him so far to sort of get a concrete opinion. The only player that really improved the starting 11 was Pedro, and now we don't really have that many alternatives in the squad.
No, it is worrying. And I actually think that Joao Pedro is going to play every single game and he'll probably play for all 90s at most because, like you say, there's not really another player there. And Maresca's already shown that he sees Joao Pedro as one of our most versatile forwards anyway. So he can play him wherever he wants across the front line pretty much. Might even see him out wide for some games as well because that's kind of what it's looking like. I don't know, but like Tyreek George is another one that's confusing. I understand Mark Guiu, he doesn't really favour him, but even Tyreek George, like, are we going to forget that he subbed him on and he subbed him off not long ago? Are we going to forget that he isn't his preferred choice? Are we going to forget that he's already kind of run down his self-esteem? Didn't think he had the greatest of impact anyway for us off the bench, and potentially again he's hindering other forwards from coming on because why didn't Garnacho and Gittins come on in that game? The very least, you got it's not like we haven't signed the players, right? Yeah, maybe they're not going to hit the ground running and they're not going to have that quality instantly, but it's not like the players aren't there. He's not utilized them really to see how it plays out. But I mean, I do struggle to I worry if Tyreek George is going to be our option moving forward and he's going to see him as a regular starter. Yeah, he'll play against Lincoln, fine, but I'm talking about the Premier League or even the Champions League as we're now seeing, because if Palmer is out, a lot of there's going to be a lot of movement. That's the thing. It's not just about the player being out. It's about everyone else and how that setup looks like, because everything changes. Palmer is that special.
Yeah, it's a problem. Obviously we've spent money, we've bought players in, but Cole Palmer is still the guy that we look to. He's still the main man, and he's still the one that is most likely to make something happen, even with the additions that we've made. But I wonder if this is laying bare more of a bigger issue with our recruitment policy, in terms of, it seems that every summer we're starting again with raw, unproven players. And it's really hard to build something. 5 attackers come in the summer, four left. You brought in Joao Pedro, Buonanotte, Garnacho, Gittins, and Liam Delap as 5 signings. Out of those players, the only one who's really got any semblance of being proven is Joao Pedro. The rest of them are all prospects. Garnacho at least has shown he can do it at Premier League level.
But still a prospect at Chelsea, because we haven't.
He's still a prospect. So you look at it, and all the players we've bought in, bar Pedro, they all need time. They all need, coaching. They need time. They need looking after. They need bedding in. They need to be given like a run of starting 5, 6, 7, 8 games on the spin. Make your mistakes, do what you need to do. That's okay when you're at a lesser club, when you're playing for teams like Brighton, when you're playing for Crystal Palaces, or you're playing for these sorts of clubs. No disrespect to them, but the pressure perhaps isn't as big, so you can afford to give these guys runs in the team. You cannot afford to do that at Chelsea. And every time players have played, Maresca's always spoken about, these guys need time to learn, understand, settle in. We haven't got time to do that. Yet every summer we're bedding in 4 or 5 players, young players, raw players, into the squad and into the team.
Yeah.
And they all need time. No one else is doing that.
No. And again, that's why we're separate. Like, I know we hate to say this, but it is true. That is why there is still such a stark disparity between us and then City, Liverpool, and Arsenal. Because again, like I said, there isn't that much turnover in their squad season in, season out. They make reinforcements, but there are still those players there that have spent 4 or 5 seasons together in a squad, and those changes are quite seamless coming in. And with us, it's like we always know we're trying this new thing where we want to bring in all the exciting young players and we believe they can produce something. But like, let's be real, there is definitely a reason there to believe that can't be possible. You can't be that consistent over the course of the season, and especially with some of the key players that we now have out, it's going to be difficult. It is going to be like game in, game out. Things are going to look different. We're not going to have that consistency clearly. And that was my biggest thing, because it's not that I necessarily don't believe in Chelsea's quality. It's I don't believe that we can be consistent. That's the problem. For us, streaks have always been really difficult. Obviously, we've had a really poor one now with Brentford, but like, even look at the start of the season, we drew to Palace, didn't we? Then we went and won against West Ham. Then we won against Fulham, and then again a draw against Brentford, right? And then lost to Man United. This is the thing. It's like we struggle, and I know 5 games maybe isn't the biggest of samples, but over 10 games, can we really like build this kind of 3, maybe 4 in a win? That's the thing I want to see as a step up from last season, because even last season we struggled, didn't we? Like, come mid-season, we'd already had a poor streak piling up.
A major drop off,
way up, and for me the biggest thing is I will say there is a huge improvement if we can build a consistency in our results. Like, even when times are rough, even against Brentford, like a team that really did present us with challenges, just grind it out. You scored a late goal there, really like see it. Do you know what I mean? It is just really difficult to see how we can build a bit of a consistent streak when so much changes game in, game out. And for me, like, I know Maresca is obviously a huge talking point right now, but for me, like, when I'm looking at Maresca and what I want to see from him is is quite the opposite of what he is doing, because he is showing that he is a little bit fearful of making some big decisions. He clearly sees us setting up very defensively against teams that we should be having a better go at, and that's a problem, because that tells me that maybe Maresca doesn't believe in the quality we have up front. I know he has a problem with our defense, but is he also not trusting our front line as well, or our attacking outfit? Because to me, some of those decisions is exactly what reflects that. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I spoke about this last night, right? Things change quickly in football, but the evidence based on the first 5 games of the season would suggest that Maresca doesn't trust a number of players that were signed for big money this summer. There's, for me, and look, I'm just giving an opinion, but for me, there is no excuse when you are chasing a game 2-0 down, 10 versus 10, to opt for Tyreek George over Garnacho or Jamie Gittins. Now, I know Gittins has not been great so far this season, but that is a £50 million signing. And you're putting someone on who is about to be sold to Fulham ahead of him.
When you've got £100 million worth of wingers sat on your bench to choose from.
But these things I don't get. You're talking about, Wes wanted to come off, that's why we put Gusto on. You're putting
Gusto on. Still bringing on another attacker. Why do they have to
at left back, right? Forget playing a left back. We're 2-0 down. Just chuck on Garnacho, put him on that left-hand side,
exactly.
Get the ball to him and see what he can do. Okay, I understand maybe why George came on. He wanted to maybe drop Pedro deeper, give him someone to play off. But George is not that guy. He's not going to give you that. He's not going to be able to do that. And unfortunately, he's just nowhere near good enough. But why, if you're going to do that, I'm not the biggest Mark Guiu fan, by the way. But if you're looking to drop Pedro into the 10 and have him play off someone, why would you not put an actual number 9 on the pitch? This is what I don't understand. I'm not saying that, Mark Guiu's the answer to all our problems. But if you're looking to put a number 9 on, why would you not use one? Like the whole Guiu situation for me is really strange. We've got basically no depth at centre forward at all. We're playing Pedro there, who does a good job, but he's not really what I'd call an out and out number 9. And you've got someone who, all right, and this is where I will slightly criticise Maresca, is whether you're happy with the signings, whether you're happy with the squad. This is what you've got now. You need to use it. And he does need to make better use of the options that are available to him. And I'm not saying that Mark Guiu should be playing or starting loads of games, but surely he needs to be used. Because at the moment, it's just looking like a complete waste of time to bring him back.
Yeah. And just on your point about introducing Tyreek George so late on and Malo Gusto, like, to me that was just, I hated that, because I literally thought you're 10v10 now. You can see that we have a little bit more happening in Man United's box, right? Like, we were actually trying to put some crosses in. We just really were missing a little bit more in the box. Just bring on another attacker. And like you saw, Arteta yesterday against Man City, when Man City decided to park up and be a bit more defensive, he took off Timber and he brought on Martinelli. That is a decision there that really changes your dynamic. You're bringing on another attacker and you're taking off a defender. I wish Maresca did something like that, because what is there to lose? Are you going to lose 1-0, 2-0, 3-0? There's no difference, right? There was an opportunity there for us to actually equalise and take away a point. And he wasn't brave enough to do it, because we're scared to concede another goal against Man United because they attack with 5. So we need to defend with 5. And that, again, that is a decision that ultimately came back to bite us. And I wish that is at least where he was a little bit, world champions of us, high confidence of us, and actually put in a little bit of self-esteem in that front line. Because who knows, maybe with another attacker in there in the box, a little bit more movement, drawing out a defender or 2, we could have made something happen. We potentially could have scored an equaliser, because it looked like it was going to happen. But no, instead we were fearful. Again, that's the thing that Maresca showed me, is that he was scared. No manager is necessarily planning to be a man down from minute 4, but there is still a better plan to put in place, or at least to correct your errors. Maybe, yes, he he made a rash decision bringing off Esteval and Neto and Palmer. But then you had an opportunity to correct it and rectify it in the second half when it was 10v10, when we did look like we were making a little bit more happen. And then even still, that didn't tell him that maybe we need to bring on Garnacho or Gittins or something. Yeah, okay, Fofana needs to come off. I didn't necessarily think Gusto needed to come on though in that game. Did you? I would have preferred it to be
not particularly. But I mean, on that specific instance, Maresca gave that, he made his intentions clear after 4 minutes that I don't believe we can get anything out of this game.
Let's go for a draw. That's so naive as well.
Against a terrible United side, and that was poor, and he's rightly been criticised for that, and rightly should be. But we are. I know it sounds mad because we signed such a high volume of players, and we bring so many players in every transfer window. Yeah. But I just cannot understand how after 3 years of this ownership, we are turning up to games with that goalkeeper and that centre-back pairing. It's unforgivable. It is unforgivable to be in that situation with the money spent to turn up with a goalkeeper who's nowhere near good enough and 2 centre-backs that didn't cost you a penny. Now, Tosin and Chalobah, I like Chalobah. I think he's a good player, solid player, dependable. Should be a squad player. If you're looking to win Premier Leagues, he can play an important role in the squad, but in my view, he's not someone who should be starting every single week. The same with Tosin. We're in that situation because we got injuries. I understand that. But you had a month after Levi Colwill got injured to go and sort out the centre-back problem. The manager twice said he wanted a centre-back. And then he rode back on it and said, actually, no, I didn't mean that. It's nonsense. We all know he wanted a centre-back. We all know he wanted a goalkeeper. And this is why I think people get so frustrated with what's going on at Chelsea, is that they'll happily go and spend 50 million on Gittins. They'll happily go and spend X millions on whoever from South America. But when it comes to addressing actual problems and the same areas that have been a problem since these guys took over, goalkeeper, centre-halves, they refuse to address it. And I just can't get my head around that, because that's going to cost us this season. It 100% will. Look at the goals we're conceding right now. Look at the goals we conceded this week. The 2 goals against Brentford, shocking. 1 ball over the top, Tosin 1v1 defending, horrendous. Couldn't defend the long throw-in for that second goal. All 3 goals against Bayern Munich, individual mistakes. The 2 goals against United, horrendous defending. If we have better centre-backs, I'm telling you now, far less of that stuff happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen at all, but the last, 3, 5, we conceded 7 goals last week in 3 games. Okay. All of those goals were our fault. Like, the defence is not good enough. I just don't get how the people in charge can sit there and look at this and think we didn't need to address any of that. Because this is now going to be a big problem for the rest of the season.
Yeah. I didn't need to watch those games last week or the week before to tell you that. I was saying all summer that we still needed to address our defensive department. Like, even before Levi Colwill got injured, I argued we needed another defender in there and someone that we could just have as backup, as a little bit of experience. I've been shouting so much about experience that at this point I just sound a little bit crazy and annoying saying it, so I'm not even going to say it anymore. But this is literally all I wanted. And even our opening game against Crystal Palace, I said to Alex after our fan cams, I said, our defence wasn't even the problem today, clearly, because didn't concede, but we are going to need reinforcements. It's as simple as that. And again, I say, like, one-on-one defending is probably our biggest weakness. Like, I don't trust Tosin one-on-one, don't really trust Chalobah one-on-one either. And it's just like a moment of expecting disaster, because again, like, how is this team going to keep clean sheets? We're going to have to trust to outscore our opponent each time, and that's not a sustainable way to play football. We all know that. So, like, what's the plan here going to be? And like I said to you last week, I just think, Maresca needs to opt with a pairing, a centre-back pairing, and just stick with it.
What pair do you think it should be?
Well, this is the thing. I don't really know. I don't trust any centre-back pairing.
It's the whole United game is so annoying, because we didn't really get to see what that team can do. We didn't really get to see what a Chalobah-Fofana partnership might look like. We didn't get to see what Palmer and Esteval would look like together.
Oh, we did. We saw it. Like,
no,
I know
we didn't. No, but from an attacking perspective, we didn't see it. And in the 11v11, from a defensive standpoint, we didn't really get to see anything about that partnership. I'm not saying the partnership would have been great or amazing or whatever, but we went to a back five and a system we don't even play. For me, I think Fofana and Chalobah is probably better than Tosin and Chalobah. I do think Chalobah's better than Tosin, but
what are you basing off that? Sorry, like when Fofana was fit or when? Because that's
look, Fofana
at this point.
Fofana, I felt was actually all right against United when he wasn't. He was probably the best centre back. I know it was a low bar because Tosin and Chalobah weren't particularly good, but he was probably the best centre back in that game. I mean, another one. I mentioned in the chat here, we saw Achimpong start against Crystal Palace. Given, how difficult it is to deal with Mateta, Eze obviously was there at the time as well. He actually dealt with them reasonably well. Why do you think we have then not seen Achimpong? Achimpong's not played a single minute since the opening day of the season.
Charlie, where would you have played him though in the Premier League?
Well, but surely he's no worse than what we've currently got.
Probably not. But Maresca wouldn't see it that way because he's already insecure about his, senior centre backs, let alone adding this burden to a player like Josh Achimpong, who is absolutely great, but he doesn't deserve to be, he deserves to progress and have like a smooth transition into our first team, not be someone who's just chucked straight in there and left to fend for himself. Because he played against Crystal Palace, didn't he, on our opening?
Yeah, he started that game. He's not played since.
And he's not played since. Well, maybe look, Maresca doesn't want to put that on him or place that on him at the moment. We'll probably see him start against Lincoln tomorrow, but maybe he thinks he's not ready for these Premier League games. I don't know exactly what he's seeing in Tosin and Chalobah, but we don't have anyone else. So Maresca made that pretty clear. So I know that we're going to blame Maresca for a lot of things, but let's not pretend like he didn't demand to have a reinforcement at the back. Let's not pretend like he was okay. And clearly he's not okay. He's not happy with what we've got, and like how can we be as well? But like the truth of the matter is I didn't need to see any of the games we've played this season to tell you that like defensively we are miles away from what City, Arsenal and Liverpool have to offer. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, we are. And the Achimpong thing's weird because, for me, what it looks like now is that we just wanted to get him to sign a long-term contract so that we didn't lose him on a free, and you protect that asset when there's really no real intention of playing him. We've got to be perfectly honest. He's not going to get in at right back with James and Gusto. He just isn't. No. If he can't get minutes at centre back, right, where we're all over the place at the moment, then I cannot see where this guy gets minutes. I imagine he'll play tomorrow night, whether he plays at right back or whether he plays at centre half. I think if he doesn't start tomorrow, then I think he will. But I mean, are you surprised about how he's not being used at all? Because there were offers for him to go in the summer in terms of going on loan. Bournemouth were interested, Crystal Palace were interested. I'm just thinking it's totally pointless having a young player not playing. So he sort of makes you think, well, why did Chelsea keep him and want to keep him when he's seemingly going to play next to no football?
Because like I said, I think he's a great player. I think he's got so much potential. But from Maresca's perspective, I don't think he thinks he should be chucking him into Premier League starting lineups. I don't know. I think it's more of like an experience thing. Like same way like Hato's not really starting for us. I know it's really hard to because you got Correa there, or he's clearly not favoured as a left centre back anyway. So that's something we're not really going to see now. But I think Maresca is just opting to have, even if he's not completely reliant on the centre-back pairings we have starting right now. They still have a little bit more experience, arguably, and that is maybe the decision that he's choosing to go with because they have had a bit more time to play together. Maybe he thinks, he's not ready to throw Josh Acheampong in there right now to fend for himself. Maybe he doesn't want to do that. Maybe it will hinder his growth. Who knows? I don't know, but clearly there is a reason that he's not starting. I think he will play tomorrow because we'll rotate a lot for Lincoln. Also, did you see Maresca say that he's really worried about Lincoln tomorrow? He's really worried about these games because this is where we can slip up, apparently.
Well,
we
it
haven't
is.
been slipping all week last week.
It is where you can slip up, though. Like, you talk about cup games, right? And if this was at home, you're not even worried about it. But when you go away, it's difficult. It's smaller grounds. It's lower league opposition. This will be like it was with Grimsby and Man United. This is a cup final.
Please don't say that.
I'm not saying they're going to lose, but this is a cup final for these teams. This might be, I don't know the history of Lincoln, but this will probably be one of the biggest games in Lincoln's history. Okay, they're going to be bang up for it. They're going to be. They've got absolutely nothing to lose. We've got everything to lose, and you do. There does have to be a slight worry in the back of your mind about these kinds of games. I'm not saying we're going to lose. I'm not saying it's going to be, a disaster or anything like that at all. But it is something you do have to consider. What sort of lineup do you go with? We talk about changes. We know Jorgensen's going to play in goal. Probably Gusto at right back. Maybe you go Acheampong at centre half with Fofana if he's able to play 2 games in this quickly. Maybe you go Acheampong and Fofana. You play Jarell Hato at left back. Midfield is where it gets problematic. No Lavia, no Asugu. So I'd give Enzo Fernandez the night off. You're looking at Andre Santos probably playing in there. And then you're like, well, we can't keep playing Moises Caicedo. So then you're thinking, Maresca's already said today that, we will be using academy players. I wonder if you go with Andre Santos and someone like Sam Raksaki, for example, who played in midfield in some of the Conference League games last season. Maybe you go Raksaki and Andre Santos. Then Buonanotte will play in the 10. I think you play Esteban on the right-hand side because he didn't even play at all against Man United, really. You put Garnacho on the left and you go with a Tyreek George or a Shim Waheka, if you trust him enough. I suspect he'll probably go George because he will. But then I say that and you're like, well, if you do that, Jamie Gittins don't start this game. And how damning an indictment would that be? Reggie Walsh, I think Raksaki is probably deemed more ready than Walsh. I don't know. But, I mean, for you, attack-wise, Buonanotte, Esteban, Garnacho behind a George or a Shim?
Yeah, I think George starts this game, though, 100%. If he's already introducing him in Premier League games, then I don't see why you're not going to start him against Lincoln to build up his minutes. Clearly, if you're seeing him as an opportunity to use him off the bench in Premier League games, then you're obviously going to start him, I think, in a game like this. Gittins started in a Premier League game. I don't see why he doesn't get some minutes, maybe. But again, Garnacho hasn't started. So he's got some decisions to make. One of the two will play. Esteval definitely does. He was brought off after 4 minutes. The guy barely touched the ball in that game, and he's going to be raring to go. So, probably see that front 4 of Buonanotte, Gittins potentially over Garnacho, in my opinion, and Esteban and Tyreek George leading the line.
I mean, how much rotation do you think he'll make? Because,
like you just said, we've pretty much rotated the whole squad there.
I know, but you listen to what he says, and it makes it sound like maybe there's not going to be a huge amount of rotation. Would you not be upset if there wasn't? I think I'd be a little bit concerned if we didn't rotate, because why were we rotating against Brentford with the Bayern Munich game in mind? And then obviously went strong on Sunday on Saturday against Manchester United, only to then play the same. No, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we will rotate. I know we'll rotate, but I just wonder whether it's going to be as much as what people think it's going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't as much rotation
It could be
what
quite
people
naive,
potentially
maybe,
think.
to underestimate the game. Like you said, there is a lot there for it. And sometimes, you know, we know these like League One sides, they turn up like it is that this is their Champions League game midweek. So for them, this is going to be a huge, huge game, like you say. So maybe it would be a bit naive to underestimate them. However, I just think that you've got to trust some of these players at some point,
Yeah.
right? Clearly, with the injuries that we're unfortunate to have, then maybe some of these players are going to be getting some Premier League minutes anyway. So give them the experience, give them the actual minutes there to build up some confidence and some some self-esteem. But yeah, I think we will rotate. And again, like I say, I think it would be a bit. I would also be upset though if Maresca, for example, does play Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo. I will look at that and I'll be like,
Yeah, I'll be
what are you
fuming.
doing? Because these players need a rest. Like partly why Enzo Fernandez has looked so slow and sluggish and hasn't been on par is because he has been running to the ground with minutes. Caicedo equally such a brilliant player, but at some point he needs a rest. He's not a machine. We know that he's a human being and he has been exceptional for us, even though he has played so much. So give him a rest. Andre Santos has done enough to warrant himself as a worthy starter and maybe in the Premier League, even if we need him. There's a lot of arguments going around that maybe it's time to give Enzo Fernandez a bit of a break and try Santos in there. Who knows? We might see that. But yeah, it's an opportunity to play him. I think yeah, I mean, I am intrigued by Garnacho more than anything because I just want to see what he's going to do. It's not necessarily like, oh, he's going to have a good game against Lincoln. It means he's brilliant. Obviously, we need to see him in the Premier League, but he has to play. He has to get some minutes there. So, yeah, it will be an interesting decision there on the left. But Esteval has to start, right? He's definitely going to play.
Yeah, I would have thought so. I mean, look, if there's any way you can play Esteval, Garnacho, and Gittins, all three of them, I'd look at doing it. Maybe you put Esteval in a 10. I mean, can Garnacho or Gittins play on the right? I mean, against a League One side, you'd like to think that amount of investment would be able to do that.
Yeah.
But you're not really sure. You'd expect Buonanotte to also play in this game, but it's just hard to tell. By the way, guys, over 100 in the building. Make sure you are smashing up the likes. We're only on 66 likes, guys. That's really shit. So make sure,
run the likes up.
Guys, come on, run the likes up. Let's get this to at least 100 likes. People, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe if you're new round here as well. On the road to 20k, we are getting closer now. So make sure you keep smashing the likes, keep subscribing as well, guys. But let's get these likes up. It does really help more than you can imagine. It takes you seconds, so make sure you do it. We said last week was a massive week. It was a poor week in the end. It ramps up the pressure on this week. Just how big is this week, do you think? Because we've got the Lincoln game in the Carabao Cup, and then the game against Brighton at home on Saturday has taken on significant added pressure, given the fact that we have started the Premier League season with 2 wins from 5. You could argue we're 2 points off second place, which is correct. But we are also 2 wins from 5 with what you would say is a favourable start to the Premier League season. We've not played anyone who finished in the top 8 last season. The fixtures haven't started coming thick and fast yet like they do around Christmas time. How big do you think this week actually is, given the context of our sort of start to the season?
How big is it?
Yeah, how big is this week?
Yeah, it's big, but every week is big. Every week is big for us because we've got bigger expectations for ourselves this season, right? Off the back of last year. So I wanna see us go on a run. I want to see some consistency. I want to see a winning streak. I want to see some consistency in our game, in our performances. I don't want us to be hot and cold like we were last season or the season before. And obviously take the cup seriously. Like I said, I really want us to win a domestic cup. I never turn my nose up to these competitions because, like, how many times have we been to Wembley and lost? Like, I can't even count anymore. Like, I'm sick of going to Wembley and losing. I mean, it's great that we get there, but what's the point when you walk away empty-handed every single time? So I'm looking at these competitions and I think they're really important. You get to play English clubs in there. You know, you have to beat the better of them as well in these competitions. And we've seen in the last years, we have just fallen short. short. So we all remember Maresca underestimating the Newcastle Cup game last year, don't we, when we went to play them there?
Well, he just basically threw that away with his
very
lineup.
rotated side, and he threw it away. So maybe he is looking at that Lincoln game tomorrow, actually thinking, I need to learn from that mistake last year. It is a worthy competition to actually make some big decisions. It is worth playing for. It is perhaps worth concentrating on. So that's definitely the mindset I want us to have going into these cup games. So this is important. Yes, of course, we're not going to, again, like I said, underestimate Lincoln. Maybe I am a little bit myself, but fine. I'm glad Maresca isn't. He's learning from a mistake he made. Brighton at the weekend is huge. Again, like every game, every Premier League game is so important. We need to, I don't like the fact that we're so early on in the season and we're saying these are must-win games, but they are. Do you know what I mean? Because we have dropped points in the Premier League now, more than we wanted to. Brighton obviously drew to Tottenham. They have beaten Man City this season. They've still got something about them, and we've seen in the past that Brighton are a side that like to trouble us. They like to hurt us, and there is obviously that extra element of maybe not hate, but just like competition there because of how we've handled things like transfer wise, etc. there. So they always like to play a good game against us, but it is a side that we should be beating for our expectations and where we want to be in the league this season and how competitive we have to be. This is a game you need to win. It is at Stamford Bridge as well, so I don't see why. We had one of our best games against Brighton last year, or shall I say Cole Palmer did, and that was probably the game I saw. Probably the very first signs that season, I saw something really special from Chelsea, actually. And I thought, wow, like we've had a really great game. We went on to win some more, and it became a bit of a streak for us, didn't it? Until it came kind of crashing down. But these are really the obstacles we need to be overcoming. So, yeah, they're all must-win games. I'd say Chelsea, apart from, again, like I say, not to underestimate anyone, because we all know Premier League games are difficult, but I'm looking at the top 6 traditional sides. Those are teams that I am wanting to beat at least once this season. So every single other game, we should be winning, or we should be putting up a good fight. Am I right in saying that? Because my expectations
we should be. But you know, I'm not saying there wouldn't have been pressure on Brighton and there wouldn't have been pressure on the Liverpool game, which is the home game after in the league. But with our start, 2 wins from 5, that does put pressure on those games, even more added pressure that perhaps we necessarily didn't really need. I mean, how concerned? I mean, I'm not changing my season expectations after 5 games. You know, absolutely not. But how concerned are you, if at all, by the start to the season, given the fact that we have had a favourable opening amount of fixtures? We haven't really played any top sides yet at all, whether home or away. And yet we have only won, I know we've only lost once, but we have only won 2 of the opening 5 games. I would have expected better than that, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to take away from anything, but even the wins, like, no disrespect to any West Ham fans, but I said West Ham are probably going to endure this scoreline a couple times this season, and if not a few. Like, let's be real, there are a lot of frailties in their back line as well. That was shambles for them in many ways, and they've had a rough start. But we scored our goals, fine. But it's the games I look at, like Crystal Palace, where they were on an unbeaten run themselves. They made it difficult for us, and again, we couldn't overcome that challenge. Fine, first game of the season, we're rusty, we're slow, whatever. But then even the Fulham game presented lots of challenges for us as well. Like, that wasn't easy by any means. And I'm just looking at us and thinking we're struggling a little bit too much for my liking. If you take games in isolation and you look at the performance as a whole, like, it just seems like sometimes we're just scrambling until the very end. And that's something that I wanted to avoid, or at least like improve on from last season. Like, I wanted to be killers in games, or at least put on a consistent performance from minute 1 to minute 90. And you look at the Brentford game, again, like you say, we made it difficult for our own sake. Like, we don't help ourselves at times. So these are the things that are going to come back to bite us, especially when you play like clinical opposition. And I'm talking when we come to face like your Liverpools, your Cities, Arsenals, whatever, because the mistakes you make, like the ones we have, sometimes they're going to be punished at a bigger scale. Like, I even look at Manchester United at the weekends. Like, even they were disappointed with their own performance. Do you know what I mean? So imagine playing like Liverpool with 10 men from minute 4. Like, what would that scoreline have been? So this is what I'm saying. Like, we're really going to have to like take a look in the mirror and be realistic that even the games we have won, maybe were too difficult for us. And even like the draws that we had, we weren't good enough in. So while it on paper it doesn't look like a terrible start, if you look at the league table, it's not good enough really in terms of performance, in terms of consistency, and it's a small sample, fine, but it's the fact that you've seen the worrying factors in those games and you're just a little bit worried about the solutions we can come up with for our upcoming Premier League games. And obviously that's on Maresca. Like Maresca's got a real big tough task on his hands here, because he now has to show like, how does he overcome these challenges? We're world champions, remember. That's got to mean something. Like, I know people are laughing about it, but still, like, we've won a tournament, we've lifted some silverware. There has to be a little bit more confidence than we're showing up with in these matches. So yeah, maybe we are giving a little bit too much respect to opposition as well. I'd argue that's the case, but like, Maresca can't be fearful. These are the games that we should now have a little bit more to show for and actually go and compete with. Like, do you think we're going to be setting up with a back five when we come to play like Arsenal?
No, we're not going to set up with a back five.
But that's what Maresca makes me feel like is going to happen.
I mean,
that's why I'm a little bit afraid.
We've never set up with a back five before.
Never have, Charlie, but doesn't mean we never will.
That's why I was so surprised that when he did that, it just didn't really make an awful lot of sense. I just feel like, I don't know, with Chelsea, it just constantly feels like, oh yeah, but next season will be better. Next season will be better. Imagine where this team's going to be in 12 months, in 18 months, you know. There never seems to be what about now?
Yeah.
What about right now? What are we doing right now to make this team better? What have we done to try and close the gap to the teams above us? Because right now, people can say what they want, but right now, the evidence to me is looking like the gap to City, the gap to Arsenal, the gap to Liverpool, that's not got smaller. Maresca said today he thinks the gap's getting smaller or has got smaller. I don't expect him to come out and say, oh, by the way, we've got worse and the gap's bigger. He's not going to come out and say that publicly.
No.
But I think we all know that's not true. On the evidence so far in the opening games, the evidence of the transfer window as well, if anything, the gap's got bigger to these teams that we're looking to compete with. And that for me is what would be a concern is, well, why is the gap bigger now? What are we doing to bring this gap down? Arsenal haven't got the best team, but they've definitely got the best squad with the options that they've got. Able to bring on Eze off the bench. You're able to bring on, I know Saka was injured, but he was on the bench. But you look at what Arsenal are able to bring off their bench. You look at what Liverpool are able to bring off their bench. And then you look at what we can bring off our bench. And I'm sorry, it's nowhere near as good. It just isn't. It just isn't good enough compared to what other teams are able to do. I think we've got a decent first 11 when everyone's fit. But the reality is, when we have to rotate and make changes and stuff, then the squad, for me, it's still lacking. It's still lacking in key areas. Why we didn't try for someone like an Eze? Why we didn't fucking get Xavi Simons? You know, we're talking about players who are quality and are better. You know, and there's just too many players who right now aren't good enough. Too many players who, these players, they might be good next season.
Yeah, that's the thing though, but it always has been.
What about now? These players aren't good enough now. They're not good enough now. What we've brought in is not good enough right now.
No. I don't think there's
so how are we supposed to close the gap?
It's not necessarily that they're not good enough. They're not perhaps good enough to be consistent yet. They're not good enough to be like the same quality game in, game out. And that's the thing, like, we've always in the last couple of years had players that are hot and cold. Like, look how long it took, like, even Madueke, he was so hot and cold. Mudryk, when he was still here, hot and cold. Like, all these players, like even Neto went through a spell where he was hot and cold when he was still upcoming. And it's all about like signing players that you need to give time. And it's like, we're going to continue clearly doing this every summer, and we're obviously going to move some of these players on. So are we like just going to start every season going, we need to be patient with this team because it's going to take time. It's going to take time. They're going to be consistent. So I don't necessarily think we lack the quality in the players that we've signed or brought in or have at the moment. For me, it's a bigger issue of consistency consistency. Like, how consistent can these players be, or show the same quality in one game and then show the exact same quality the next game? Like, that's the real issue. And then if everyone's having a hot and cold day, well, that's where you get disruption in your collective outfit. Like, when everyone is having maybe an off day, or certain players are and other players are having to cover for them, that's where you get a real issue. Like, we need these players to be like, obviously you're going to have an off game. Like, I'm not silly, we know them, they're footballers, but they're human as well. They're going to make mistakes, fine. But for me, I have a bigger issue with the fact that you can't have a good game and then have 3 bad. That's not good enough. Like, you simply can't.
But that's what you're going to get. That's what you're going to get with young players, and that's what you're going to get with.
I totally get
the
that.
type of players that we sign. And so I know we can't afford to have that, but by design and by the way that we've opted to go with our recruitment, that is exactly what we're going to get. Inconsistent performances. You know, look. There have been upgrades in certain positions. The squad is better. The squad's definitely better. My argument would be, though, I don't think the starting 11's better.
Wait,
can we really sit here and say, and guys in the chat, let me know your thoughts. Is the starting 11 better this season than it was last season, or is it just the same? Let us know in the chat, because realistically, the only player that's improved the starting 11 from last season is João Pedro. Other than that, the starting 11 is no better than it was last season. I mean, Nino, do you think the starting 11's better, worse, or the same than the starting 11 last season?
Our defence is definitely the same, or probably a bit worse if we're talking statistically. Small sample size, but still. Midfield's pretty much the same, though, isn't it? Our midfield is pretty much the same. I'd argue maybe better. Yeah, but you're saying starting 11, aren't you?
Yeah, starting 11, not squad-wise, starting 11 right now.
Yeah, midfield's probably the same. I'd say attack-wise, on paper, it should have improved, right? Because don't forget, we signed Liam Delap as well, and he's potentially should be included in this. He's not, because he is obviously injured, but even still, I'd say that's an improvement still, because, like, let's be real, we're playing Pedro Neto up top when we didn't have a striker. Like, that was a hindrance. Now, arguably, we've improved, but yeah, you're right. Like, we haven't really seen Garnacho, though. Like, he was supposed to be potentially in the starting 11. I don't really know what the plan ever really was for Gittins. To be fair, that never really made sense to me in the first place. But, like, yeah, I do get that. Like, Sanchez is the same. Not anything new to me, and you know, and I know, and Alex and everyone else who listens to me knows how I felt about Sanchez from day one. To me, that's never changed, never will. So, yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, you look at the players who left in Nkunku, Jackson, Felix, and Madueke.
Yeah.
Okay. Jackson is better than a lot of what's come in. It's a pointless conversation now because he's gone. But let's be honest, the squad and the team would be better if Jackson was available. The squad and the team right now, right? I know Madueke is not a left-sided player, really, but Madueke would offer more on the left-hand side than Gittins would right now. If you get what I'm saying.
Right now, but we're judging that off what? Arsenal?
We're judging that off what we've seen from Madueke at Chelsea, right?
Yeah, but let's not forget, when Madueke came in, he was exactly like what we have right now. Hot and cold.
Yeah, he was, but we saw a sustained improvement from him. You know, he did improve and he did get better. And what my point is, right, is that a Madueke on that left wing, I know he's not a left winger, but that is going to give you right now is a better option than Gittins on the left. Is that a fair thing to say? I'm not saying that Gittins is crap, and I'm not saying that Gittins is not going to reach his potential and not get better and not be a success at Chelsea, because it's too early to say that. But on just right now as footballers, Madueke would have offered more on that left side than Gittins is currently offering.
Yeah, but it's easy for you to say that because we've actually seen what he could offer at his best in the 2 years he spent with us.
I just think, look, Gittins, obviously it's early days, But there won't be a single Chelsea fan who's impressed by what they've seen.
But yeah,
from
let's
Gittins
not
so
pretend though. Actually, yeah, you're right, because let's not pretend when Gittins came in, what he has shown or his CV as a whole necessarily screams upgrade on Madueke. Is that what you're saying? Like,
yeah, that's my point in terms of the
yeah.
players that have come in. How many of the players that have come in the attacking areas are better than the ones that left? And I don't mean potential to be better, because I think they've all got potential to be better than the ones that left. But I mean, right now as players, right now where they are in their careers, how many of the attackers that came in are better than the ones that left?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say off the 5-game sample we've had in
I
the
would
league.
say, I would say no, but I don't mean of this 5-game sample. I just mean in general as players.
Yeah, maybe a couple.
I think Joao Pedro definitely,
Yeah.
and maybe Esteban as well, because Esteban, is arguably the Madueke replacement. Is Liam Delap better than what went out? Yeah, he probably is. So you're looking at really two. I would say. I think Pedro's better than Nkunku. I think Joao Pedro is kind of the Nkunku replacement in the squad. By the way, I don't know why Prem Talk's saying I'm writing off Gittins' career. No, I'm not. All I'm saying is that no one's been impressed by him so far, which is true. I've said that, he's got plenty of time to show what he can do. He should get opportunities. But I am slightly concerned about him at this point in time. It's very early days, but from the very small sample size we've seen right now, the guy doesn't look ready for Premier League football. I don't think that's an outrageous thing to say. If people do, then that's fine. But I really don't see that as a controversial thing to say. I mean, is that a mad thing to say?
No, not really. But that's the thing, though. It's like when Gittins came in, we weren't all really like screaming with excitement that this is like an incredible signing that comes in and elevates what we have already. Like for me, Gittins was squad depth. I think at least that's how I interpreted that transfer, because I don't know. I thought we would probably be seeing Esteban starting a lot more. To me, he always came in as someone that was worthy of starting. Well, actually, that's a lie, because I can't lie and say that Esteban is necessarily someone I've watched so much before he came, but certainly worthy of having and fighting for a place in the starting 11. To me, Pedro Neto is definitely the winger that's proved himself the most here at Chelsea at the moment and actually deserves to have a regular starting spot. And he's versatile, so to me, maybe he was always going to be starting on the left. I don't know, but that's it. To me, Gittins was always someone that came in as squad depth, not necessarily someone that comes in and takes a starting 11 spot, but he's a young player, and again, that's something we've said about all of our incomings in the last few years. He's a young player, give him time, let's see, and it's either a blessing or it's a huge curse, because they either move on in a couple years and they haven't really shown much than maybe like 10 G&A over 2 years or whatever, but I don't know. It's hard to say. I saw some good things from Gittins that probably could be improved on. Like, I think he's got a good first touch that could be worked with. It could be something special. He's okay at dribbling.Is shooting is probably his biggest weakness at the moment from what I've seen. Shots taken, that needs to improve. So again, it's a big thing, because when we're looking at reinforcing our winger positions, we said that we really did need goal scoring wingers. That's something that we haven't really had, like even last season, like goal scoring wingers or goals coming from our winger positions.
We've not addressed that with any of those signings. Like, we lacked goals from the wide areas last season, and I think the players that have come in, they're not exactly renowned for scoring a decent amount of goals. Look, Garnacho, I think, is one who does have goals in his game, and let's wait and see what he can do. But Pedro Neto, again, is not a prolific goal scorer. Gittins, we don't know what we're going to get from him right now, but he wasn't a prolific goal scorer as such. And then Esteban, he has got goals in his game. He can score goals, but it's still obviously very early days in his career. It just, I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, just on Gittins, though, like, there's plenty of time for him to come good. My worry would be, though, in terms of opportunities that he might get. Because if we're being real, right now in Maresca's mind and what it looks like on the evidence is that Gittins is third choice on the left wing. I think he's behind Garnacho, and I think he's behind Pedro Neto as well. You know, even though Neto's best position is on the right. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's a look. I hope that he does play tomorrow, and I hope that Gittins can have a good performance and get some goals or get some assists or whatever. Yes, it might be against a League One team or whatnot, but it's gonna be good for his confidence. You know, like you've got to start building his confidence up. Garnacho, I want to see more of him. And yeah, look, there are exciting players in the attack, but I just think because we've changed so many pieces in that attack, it is going to take a long time for those guys to get used to playing together and form kind of a cohesive unit. I mean, because it was a significant change in attack, and that's not going to suddenly come together overnight. That is going to take, a decent chunk of time to fix.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing that we find ourselves saying at the start of every season is like, it's exciting, it's interesting, like we have things to be excited for. Let's see how we get on and what happens. And I feel like that's just where we are. Obviously, we came off a high because we won the Club World Cup, and maybe that just did like keep our rosy glasses on for a little bit longer.
Do you think that warped people's expectations? Like, do you think that warped people's perceptions of how good this team is? Because, like, look, we did great in a Club World Cup, brilliant, but can you base expectations and can you really base, how good a team is based off a 7-game tournament?
No.
And this is my point. We've shown that we can do it over 7 games. We've shown we can do it in a tournament format. We haven't shown for the longest time possible, 8-9 years now, we've not shown that we can do it over 38 games in the league. Chelsea have continuously shown they can do it in tournament football, win trophies, do it over a short period of time, over a short amount of games. But where that consistency is going to come from in the league, I don't know.
Yeah. However, I think, I mean, this whole stream has felt quite negative, but, we're not negative. We're just kind of looking ahead at the season. But I think this is a conversation we could have in December if hopefully, and God forbid, things are bad and we're sitting in and around maybe fighting to be in the top 6, which is horrific for me personally to be in that position come December, because then that tells me that we're static and we're where we were last season, if not like downgrading, if that makes sense. So I think we can still afford to say right now, like, maybe give him some time. I know it sounds like, I think it's fine to be aware, because I think we're quite realistic with what our situation is. Like, I can tell you now, I don't think our defense improves. I just hope that we can keep a little bit of stability and consistency, but I don't see these players but suddenly becoming a level up. Like, I'm sorry, and I'm specifically talking about our centre-back pairings, because I think I'm quite comfortable in our full-back positions, but I think moving forward, especially with what we've built in midfield and what we've built in our attacking department, is still good enough to be an upgrade. It still should be an upgrade. You know what I mean? Because of the least of all the time they've spent with each other. Because I think that's something as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is valuable. The fact that they have had some time together. Yeah, we've made reinforcements, but really there should be a lot more chemistry in this side. And again, that's something that we didn't have at the start of last season, at the start of the season before. So I think that certainly is worthy of something. Obviously, we hope that some of the new signings can build up their confidence a little bit, and we can see some more goals from various positions, arguably our winger positions. But again, like, you look at a player like Garnacho. Maybe it's harder to say for Gittins because he hasn't played in the league, but with Garnacho, you have seen him score goals for Man United from that position that we're looking to deploy him in. So it's not like he hasn't done it. Maybe give him some time, maybe give him an opportunity to start a run of games. But let's not forget, there was a time where he was basically saving Man United not long ago. So, at least there is that experience that you can hope and look forward to.
There's know-how in it, and he's proven.
There's know-how, and that is something. Again, like, it's definitely worth being patient for. At least, that you can't write off a player before you've even seen him start. like a handful of games. And at least, you know, with Garnacho is you don't have to question the effort there, because if anyone is burning and ready to go and play some Premier League minutes, it's probably him, because he's going to be playing with a point to prove, and he is playing with extra fire there. Like, I'm sure he was burning to come on against Manchester United.
Yeah.
So again, it's like, it's all about giving these players minutes, but I think Maresca's got to be quite careful with his setups from here on, and I think he has to be quite sensible. And I think, you know, if Palmer needs to be out and he needs to go get his surgery, then you can't complain, because you have been given enough quality there still, even still, maybe not consistent quality, but it's not like our players, let's not act like they're all crap. Let's not act like
No, they're not.
Nobody's. It's just about consistency more than quality for me. It's about consistently showing your quality. That is the biggest thing that I'm waiting to see.
Last thing, last like 30 seconds or whatever. How much of an impact do you think the Club World Cup is going to have on this season? Do you think it's going to cap us in terms of what we can achieve? Because already we're seeing injury problems with players, fatigue, you know, and whatnot. Do you worry when we get to January, February time that, I don't know, it could all cave in? I mean, how much of an impact do you think this is going to have on the season? Going, obviously, winning that Club World Cup, it was great, but it could have a negative impact. I mean, do you think it's going to be a big problem for us?
Well, like fitness wise, fatigue wise, yes, and you can already see the market has left on the squads. However, what I will say, and again, this is me talking with higher standards that I now hold for Chelsea and bigger expectations, I still think we should be coping just fine, because there was a time where we were playing a game a week, right? We wanted to play more. We wanted our European football. Now we have it. Now we have more games, and that there should be a bigger ability to cope with that. There should be a better know-how to cope with that, because we prayed for these times. So we should be absolutely having a little bit more to show for it. And again, like I say, it is experience. We're going to get better at it. However, we wanted to be here. We wanted to be like the top clubs. We wanted to be back where we belong. So we should be absolutely coping like them. And I'm sorry, but it's absolutely great. We won a trophy over summer, but that's what Chelsea does, right? We win trophies and then we go and we compete for some more. So this is now the standard that we need to be holding for our club. So yes, it is going to be poor at times. We're going to have fatigued players. We're going to have players that need to be out for a little bit and have some rest. But let's not pretend like we don't want to be here. We worked for this, so we need to actually now adapt to that. And Maresca, it's up to him to work that out. We've been given enough tools. We've been given enough players there for the depth. Quality is a different situation. Consistency is a different story. But we wanted this, and frankly we've now had enough experience to be able to play game in, game out, to play our strongest 11, to adapt here and there and make the ultimate rotation that we need to, where we need to, without it being so wholesale, right? Because we can't do that. But we should be capable, and we should have enough experience now. And frankly, as much as I know that and there is a stark difference between maybe us and some of the bigger dogs in the Prem at the moment, let's not pretend and hold our club to a low standard where we're making such excuses all the time. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to have this whole underdog tag forever. At some point, we need to show we're good enough to compete with these teams. And that is exactly what we need to do. We need to start acting like that club, because we should be.
No, I agree. This is what we want. This is what we signed up for. This is where we need to be. And you've got to make better use of the options that you've got, whether you like them or not. Because if you don't, then it's just gonna cause us issues. But yeah, guys, we're gonna round out here. Big up to everyone that's tuned in as always. Appreciate each and every single one of you guys. On the way out, make sure you smash the likes. We're 15 away from 100. There was a small improvement, but we need to do better than that. So, guys, let's get this to 100 likes on your way out. So smash that like button. It's free. It takes seconds. And there's definitely a few of you who haven't done it, and it really helps out. So please do that. Subscribe if you're new around here. Nina, let people know where to find you and if you've got anything coming up this week.
Yeah, Nina's Chelsea Corner on YouTube, and you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and X as well. They're all linked there. I'll be doing some content around our Lincoln City massive game we have tomorrow. So yeah, subscribe, and also subscribe to Charlie, like the stream, and we'll be back next week with this show. So yeah, tune in to us and listen to us yap for an hour and more, whatever it is, about Chelsea.
Yeah, guys, make sure you check it out. Channel tagged in the title. Go and subscribe to Nina. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow. Looking ahead to Lincoln game before heading up there. Hopefully not to be embarrassed. But yeah, guys, big love as always. Smash the like, subscribe. Appreciate all of you. Catch you lot tomorrow. Up the Chelsea, and we're out.